We'll start by the recitation of our vision statement. Every school will be a thriving school that prepares every student to graduate from high school, college, career, and community ready. First on our agenda are public appearances. Thank you for signing up in the front hall. Thank you for helping us keep our aisles clear to ensure safety, and thank you for helping us to ensure that every speaker has an opportunity to make their comments. Speakers are welcome to speak on any topic at a regular board meeting, but we would like the speakers and audience to know that board action and conversation is limited to the items on the agenda, which means members of the board will not be able to engage in conversation with speakers. We are here to listen carefully. We will take your comments into account in our decision-making and follow up where appropriate. Yes. Yeah. Do we have public speakers? We have 9 public speakers. First, I want to take a moment of silence for Shay Watson. We'd like to ask for a moment of silence this evening for our district to recognize the passing of Shay Watson. Shay is remembered as someone who always had plans to change the world, who could light up a room with his smile. He was the heart and soul of the communities he belonged to. Growing up, Shay attended Leopold Elementary School, Cherokee Heights Middle School, had attended West High School. He was engaged in our school communities in so many ways, whether by winning a spelling bee, playing youth football, basketball, or track, working with kids through Madison School Community Recreation, by giving back to our communities in so many other ways, and by being a great friend. Shay's passing has taken a significant toll on so many students and staff across MMSD, and we remember him tonight. I now ask us to participate in a moment of silence in honor of Shay. Thank you. We have 9 public speakers tonight. Speaker number 1, Paul S. Hi.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Paul Swanson. I was part of the original staff at La Follette High School and spent 30 years there in roles as teacher, coach, and athletic director. I'm here tonight to speak in opposition to item number 13.2, rescinding of the naming rights. All of us who have been in the public circuit have had opportunities to make decisions, to make comments, to have actions, of which some people may be offended by things that we said or did. They may be offended by things that we didn't say or didn't do based on information, misinformation, or partial information. You as board members have had the opportunity to be questioned on votes that you've taken, statements that you've made, and events that have occurred. Sometimes the voices are soft, sometimes they're loud. Sometimes they have a great deal of backing behind them. Sometimes they have less. But leadership is not easy. And in terms of item 13.2, I think that the policy was followed going through Principal Kevin Storch, Athletic Director Kevin Porter, legal counsel Matt Bell, and Superintendent Jennifer Cheatham. It went through and was approved. Naysayers arrived, and the vote was to rescind. And I'm asking you to not rescind based on a few naysayers, just as I would be asking you not to change your vote on police in schools because of opposition. You got it right the first time. Let's get it right again. Thank you.
Next speaker, Steve.
Hello, board members. I'm Steve Books. I'm here to speak on your resolution regarding the F-35 here in Madison. I support your resolution and wish it was a little stronger language in the end that says that Madison School Board, be it finally resolved that MMSD Board of Education requests that the Air National Guard drop Truax Field as a preferred location for the F-35A operational bed down period. So I sent the email to you members, and as a SEA special ed assistant at Memorial High School, I work with many autistic children that have very sensitive hearing. How will more noise at the airport affect education in Madison, especially on the north side? Face it, the U.S. military has lost the 18-year war in Afghanistan and will not admit it. We've been there 18 years. So kids in the public high school who are graduating this year have been at war in the USA for 18 years. So this is our consolidation prize in Madison, to accept more noise in Madison, and we're still at war. That's unacceptable. That is not protecting our domestic tranquility as Americans. It's opposite that. Say no, totally. I support your resolution. Exactly. This is excellent that you have the resolution. Say no and tell the Air National Guard here in Madison, just like my 8th grade civics teacher said to students who were acting up a little bit in class, he would say, well, you could tell the Air National Guard nicely to move out, totally. Change that place into a renewable energy facility for our children's future. Well, anyway, tell the National Guard they can butt out. That's what Mr. Bates would tell kids who were acting up in class. Go see the principal, butt out. So tell the Air National Guard they can butt out of Madison. Totally. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Monker.
Hi, everyone. My name is Monka. I work at Freedom Inc. and I live on the south side of Madison. I first want to say that I'm really disappointed to be coming to a school board that's still supporting police in schools. It's really disheartening considering that this is supposed to be one of the most progressive places in the country, and certainly in the state. And especially embarrassing when I get chosen to go to a national convening of progressive leaders in the country in Miami last week. And one of the topics was demilitarization and getting police out of our schools, off our streets, and community alternatives, getting ICE out of our streets, out of our country, really, and definitely like our foreign policy and aggression in Palestine. And folks were looking to me as someone from Madison as like a supposedly progressive place. So what are y'all doing up there? What's going on around this? And I had to say, the school board actually pays police to be in the schools, and they actually use police on students. Not only that, they disproportionately use the police on black students with disabilities, and black girls. Not only that, the impact is greater for those black youth when they do end up in the criminal justice system. So we were sitting in a place, Miami, which spends up to $100 million on their police force. They actually have a police school where kids can go, I think it's like K through 12, to learn how to be a police officer, or ICE agent, and other federal agents. In the same place where there's a federal prison building across the street from a college campus, across the street from a Baptist church. The same place that incarcerates the most youth in the country has the most youth prisons in the country. So they are looking to, like, outside of their state, their city, for solutions to demilitarization, and they were looking to us. That's supposed to be like a progressive place. And we're paying police to be in our schools. It's been over 2 years now that folks have been bringing you concrete evidence and proof that it's negatively impacting and harming black students and other youth of color, but mainly black students when you look at the data, and y'all have done nothing, literally nothing. We can look at your intentions and what your intentions around black excellence and your intentions around forming an ad hoc committee and your intentions around providing like a healthy and like safe learning environment for our students. But really what the impact has been is just about the same as in Miami. The police and other forms of law enforcement have actually just been used to subjugate and oppress black people and oppress other people of color. At least they're upfront about it, and they know what they're doing, and they know what they call it. They don't call it school safety. So you still have the decision to make. You still have the choice before you. Just a short month before nationally, there's a week of action calling to educate our students instead of incarcerate them. You still have this choice. Are you going to actually invest in the wellness, leadership, and creativity of black youth and other youth of color? Or are you going to continue contributing to their oppression? They get the police called on them, and they get disciplined for being violent, or what is perceived as violence. Yet you all actually have made careers around sitting up there and being violent without even being aggressive. Your policies are violent, your policies are harming black youth, and it needs to stop now. What more do you need? You need to answer for these decisions, actually. Because we have the data, we present you with information, with alternatives, and you still choose to lock up our kids and to expose them to traumatic events, and to push them out of schools, and to incarcerate them instead of educate them. You may not be Madison Police Department, but you do employ them and invite them into your schools, into our schools. So you have to answer for that. Gloria has already agreed to a public debate, and I think actually all of you should tell us and to explain to us why. Give us actual data and proof that this does not negatively impact our students in a way that lasts with them their whole entire lives.
Thank you, Manka. Next speaker, Shira.
My name is Shira Adams, and I'm a youth coordinator at Freedom Inc. There is no studies that show that police are helpful in schools. They don't help stop school shootings, and they don't protect black and brown children. If you want to talk about safety, talk about cultural specific counselors, not cops. Students that have counselors that look like them will help them open up and express what they're going through. Having a relationship with a counselor is way safer than having a relationship with a cop. And it's actually very harmful to not have a counselor that looks like you in schools. Knowing youth of color have the most trauma and mental health issues. We have this stereotype that black folks are violent and unstable. First of all, we are not. But when we do have mental health needs, it's because of oppression, and look what you all are doing to black and brown children in schools, oppressing them. We are less invested in, and mental health isn't even mentioned for black children. I myself struggle with mental health problems, and not once have the school helped me. I told the school that I was being harmed at home and wasn't feeling safe, and they didn't do a goddamn thing. With a counselor that looks like you, you can trust them with helping you and not trying to be your friend one day and arresting and ticketing you the next day. What you all are hoping for today is for police to come into schools and improve the youth learning when really they are harmful and traumatizing, to have someone that can do whatever they want to do to you for the next 4 years and don't get held accountable for what they do. Students of color go through so damn much, and y'all don't even seem to care. For example, what studies really show is girls of color are facing all types of gender-based violence and discrimination in their community and schools. So if they are already having problems with being watched by police in their community just for being black, why put them in a so-called safe zone? Nationally, black girls represent 16% of female students, but almost half of all the girls-related arrests. It's crazy to even say out loud. And Madison is even worse. Also, since police been in schools, the truancy ticket rates have been up. Black children are twice as likely to be ticketed for being late than white people. Why don't black children are twice as likely to be ticketed late than white people? Why don't black kids show up for school? It can be for personal reasons, for home and teachers, for problems at home and teachers in schools making children feel unsafe. How does truancy help them? When they get that $500 ticket and students and their parents can't pay for it. It's a way to school to prison pipeline. Everybody in this building know our demands, so you can damn near say it with me. Get cops out of schools. That means completely take the cops out of schools. Invest into leadership, wellness, and creativity for black youth and youth of color. Youth, parents, community have real decision-making power over schools. Let black and brown children learn their history and know the good things about black folks instead of the things that brought us down. Use transformation justice instead of punishing you.
Thank you, Shira. Next speaker.
Hi, my name is Maital, and I'm a Youth Justice Coordinator at Freedom Inc. No cops in schools. Instead, invest this money to people that believe that we could grow and that could help us grow. We need more counselors, not cops. We need social workers. We don't need cops in our schools because having them in our schools just leads to more arrests. Black kids that are registered in the Madison High School make up only 18%, but 83.5% of those arrested. This is a shame. You already know the numbers, but don't care. Schools are supposed to be a place where we get developed, but instead, cops get in the way of our development. Why is that the state is investing in the criminal and juvenile system rather than us? If we come to school and get locked up, get harassed, and police laying their hands on us, then I feel that there's really no point of student coming into schools. If you could see, schools are turning into prisons. Our own school, a place where kids are learning, is actually experiencing what is it like to be in prison. These kids deserve to learn, they deserve to stay in school and be with their friends, and they deserve to make mistakes. I want you all to see that sending black and brown kids to jail actually really does harm them, because they won't get the proper education to graduate and go off to college like many of us. These kids that get put in juvenile will feel sad because they will feel that it was their fault that they couldn't graduate from high school. It also has a mental and emotional impact on the children and their families. People of color deserve to have the same rights as white kids. We shouldn't let white kids get locked up because it's going to harm them. But what about us? We matter just as much as the white people. Maybe even higher, because people of color do so much for the United States. Instead of having police in hallways in our buildings, use teachers that kids get along well with. People that change their education because they listen to kids' needs. Teachers should also stop recommending students to talk to the EROs, because really they aren't there to listen to us. And if they do, the only things that we talk to them about is family. What if the family gets taken away? Now the kid doesn't know where to go. So I highly suggest that if this ever happens, refer them to counselors or someone that is close to the students outside of schools. We don't need police to solve our problems. We don't need police there to solve students' problems. We have other alternatives. So I'm asking for you all to take cops out of high schools, and also remember that my team and I will always come back until you all meet our demands, which is take cops out of our schools, invest in youth of color, creativity, wellness, and leadership, and lastly, have those who are mostly impacted, black and brown and any other people of color, choose what safety means.
Thank you. Next, Bianca.
Hey, my name is Bianca Gomez, and I'm the Youth Justice Director at Freedom Inc. And a few things. So it's obviously really problematic that we continue to invest more in incarceration than we do our own children. And I want to be clear that the more you invest in police is the more you're invested in imprisoning black and brown children. Common sense and scientific research tells us that investing in the wellness and livelihoods of children means that you don't have to put children in jail or use punitive punishment. And schools have the resources to do that. They just don't see it as a priority. I also think that whether we're talking about children or grown people, we know that investing in police means that we're investing in the destruction of families. It means that we're investing in homelessness. It means that we're investing in mental illness. It means that we are invested in traumatizing children. It means that you enjoy pushing children into the school-to-prison pipeline. And that's really what incarceration and police mean for our communities. And I know that some people convince themselves differently with relationship programs between officers and youth, and get to know your neighborhood officer and officers passing out turkeys during Thanksgiving, but it doesn't change the reality of the violence that's happening to our kids. Another thing, one of our youth at one school was pulled out and told that she couldn't wear her No Cops in School t-shirt because it was inappropriate and offensive to the officer. But let me ask y'all something. Which one do you think is more inappropriate or offensive? A shirt that stands up against police violence or actual police violence? And I would love to know how many times that officer was pulled out and pulled aside and talked about his behavior towards young people. A 6-year-old black girl in Florida was just arrested in her classroom for having a tantrum, right? And I know we think that Madison is so different, but Tony Robinson proved that we're not different. Janelle Laird proved that we're not different. The White Horse incident proved that we are not different. Your statistics and data prove that we are not different, right? So you actually have to do something about police violence. It can't just be a statement at the beginning of a school board meeting. It can't just be saying that you're going to take police out of one school, right? You actually have to do something. And the community, Freedom Inc. has the answers, and we've presented y'all with solutions for 3 years, right? So now you actually have to move on those. And Gloria, just a little bit of a nudge about the debate. I received the email from the debate team at UW who's willing to host, so I would love to hear a response if you're available those days.
Thank you. Denise Hetrick? Hi, Denise.
Hi, my name is Denise. Until June of 2018, I was employed by most of you. I have three points to make tonight. Can you hear me? 3 points to make tonight that overlap. First, achievement gap. Just a suggestion. Please look at it through a different lens. I don't like the numbers either, but if all we're going to continue to look at is one characteristic such as race or ethnicity, then the answer doesn't lie in who is in the gap, but in those who are not. Please look at the students in whatever category you choose to look at who are succeeding and determine why and replicate what those successful students are doing. Budget, second point. Eliminate the bloat. And then maybe I will consider supporting a referendum to raise taxes. Mr. Cruz, in his WSJ op-ed yesterday, said it better than I ever could. In 6 years, I have seen an exponential growth in the budget that is mirrored by the maybe coincidental exponential increase in the number of polls in the parking lot with names on them in the central office. I think Madison is at the place where it needs proof that all of the work that is being done is the work that is essential to improving student outcomes and therefore justified. Eliminate non-essential positions and/or positions that do not directly work with students. See where the budget is then, and Madison might consider supporting a referendum that asks for more money. You can tell when people are working because it looks like it and stuff gets done. If both of those are true and the needle is moving in the right direction for our students, and there is transparency and accountability in regards to salaries and operating costs that supports that we are doing right by our students, Madison might get behind a referendum. Finally, superintendent. Buy local. Madison is a quirky place. We have grown our own over and over, only to let them take themselves somewhere else because we don't hire them. It is time to buy local. Get a superintendent who is from, who understands, and who respects Madison. Someone who will not dare to dump a bunch of high-priced buzzword initiatives on us, only to leave us holding the bag for results that were never proven. If you want names, I can give them to you. I'm not going to play the game anymore. The only way to subvert the system is to stop playing the game that says some people matter more than others and that the work around our kids is for staff convenience. Our kids deserve better than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Margaret Rubio?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for letting me speak today. I know you all have heard me and my son's story about a school by the name of Badger Rock. We are no longer at that school. And I just want to say, where there is smoke, there is fire. And you guys are going to have a big fire soon. I don't know. First of all, I'm not prepared, so I'm going to try my best. I don't know how the school district goes about educating staff and principals in regards to leadership, accountability, and communication. My son has special needs. I'm standing here saying it loud and proud, and I know for a fact that there have been several students taken out of this school. I've had many moments with this principal who has talked down to me, to my son, has come to me in an aggressive manner, has come to my son in an aggressive manner. And I've had other people, friends, acquaintances, who have tried to speak to him, and they come back to me saying the same thing, that they're confused as to why this person cannot be open enough to receive information without being so defensive. I've heard stories, and I've had this situation happen at another school as well. I don't know how to go about trying to get the doors open. I go and I've realized that I just go off of emotion, but that's all I have to go on. And I know that there's a lot of parents out there that do want money for more trainings. And I know that there's companies, organizations out there that offer free trainings to schools in regards to other special needs, other special education, and this principal also turned that down. And when I asked him about it, he looked at me and cocked his head and said, well, it's to my discretion, and I don't think we need it. And yet I told this person, I told this principal, with tears in my eyes, I said, but you know what? If you have a discussion about Tourette's, that it talks about executive functions and how it affects children's executive functions, it might help another child. They might not have Tourette's, but they might have OCD, they might have ADHD, they might have anything, OCD, ADHD, autism, that might help them. And he was still closed-minded. And I don't understand. I speak with other people that are special needs parents, and I just am asking that you guys pay better attention and try to help those parents of special needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Sonia Worthy.
Hi. My name's Sonia Worthy. I'm a mental health social worker in Madison, and I want to speak directly to the members of the board who voted to keep cops in our youth schools. So a few days ago, I read, and I'm sure many other people in the audience read, the Madison 365 article, which detailed how the violent actions of grown adults on the police force who beat a black disabled child in his own home, how their actions were decided to be, quote, objectively reasonable by a sham of an investigation, in my opinion. And so what I want to ask the board is, how can you continue to give $365,000 to an armed organization like the Madison Police Department, an organization which continues to commit violence against black and brown children in our community? And I'm curious how you plan to explain that to this youth and his family. So I'm asking you to change your vote, to do the courageous thing, and to take cops out of our youth schools. Thank you.
Thank you. That was our last public appearance. Move on to board president's announcements and reports. I first want to begin by acknowledging that this is Matt Bell's last evening with us at our board member. He has served as our general counsel. And I want to thank you for your service and to the community and to the school district. You have served us exceptionally, and you have guided us through some challenging times. So I really want to thank you. You will be sorely missed. Thank you for continuing to lead us with your compassion through all the tough decisions that we've had to make. So I want to open this up to other board members who want to say a few words. You're a speaker. It's on. You got to turn it on.
Thank you. I wish you nothing but success, and it has been incredible to get to work with you and to get to know you and to have you negotiate for us and work really, really hard for us. And we don't take for granted for a second all that you did to make us informed and successful, and to hear us and advocate on our behalf.
So I'll try to be brief. I was pleasantly surprised that you stepped up to a very challenging role, and your background in mental health brought a lot of humanity to the type of work that often does the opposite. There's one memory in particularly around this last few months that we have worked together that I want to hold close to my heart. Was one when you attended a white fragility forum, and you were one of the few MMSD staff present, and you got called on the floor, and you showed great humility around where you are on your journey. You show great discontent with the state of education, particularly our students of color. And you continue to model what is it like to be a human being doing this work. And for that, all those things, I appreciate you and I wish you luck on your journey. And I'm so very thankful to have had a pleasure to work with you doing this work this last few months. Thank you so much.
Matt, thank you, Matt. You've been a rock for this group, so I'm not going to add anything else, but thank you for everything. It's been really wonderful to work with you.
Savion?
Yeah, I think Ananda put it very well. We've only gotten to work together for about 2 months, but really appreciate the work you've done, and thank you. Wish you nothing but the best. Yeah.
So in addition to everything else that's been said, I really, really appreciate how you've been able to take complicated legal issues and make me understand them by simplifying them and explaining them really carefully. Thank you so much for taking the time to do that. I really appreciate that you've had an open door policy and you've always been there for the board. Best of luck in your next job.
Great. Nikki?
I'm not going to duplicate what everyone said. I wish you the best in your new job. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yep. Go ahead.
All right. So I wrote a few notes down. Sorry. It's been an honor to represent this board, and I thank you for granting me the privilege of sitting up here with you. I've seen a lot of amazing individuals in these seats over the last 10 years, and every single one of them has contributed somehow to this district. But this board is different in the best of ways. I truly believe this board was elected on a platform of hope. Hope for change, hope for equality, hope for leadership, hope for respect. And I too believe in that hope. After interacting with each one of you, I am more hopeful than ever for this district. And the greatest compliment I can give any of you is that I'm entrusting my greatest gifts, my children, to this district. But there are detractors, and there are people in this community who will try to split this board. And while I would never expect you all to have the same viewpoints, and actually that's the beauty of this board, you all come to this board with different viewpoints, you've got to stay unified in the mission. Our community demands that, our children demand that, my kids demand that, and so go forth and fulfill that mission. You have immense power as members of this board. And again, I thank you. I thank you for your gifts that you've given, and please know I may not be in this seat, but I will be with you. I will be watching because, again, my babies count on you too. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. So another announcement, Wisconsin's Department of Justice issues safety grants for MMSD. The board is grateful to the Wisconsin Department of Justice for providing safety grants to our high schools. The Madison Metropolitan School District received $2.5 million last August, which will be issued to update and improve building security. The board thanks the Department of Justice for helping to keep our students, their families, and our community safe. Another great news is the Early College STEM Academy. The Madison Metropolitan School District was recently awarded $1.2 million grant over the next 3 years for the Early College STEM Academy. We have the privilege of accepting this grant tonight. The Early College STEM Academy is a partnership between MMSD and Madison College, providing access to opportunities for students of color, females, first-generation college going on, and/or students of low-income backgrounds who are interested in science, technology, engineering, and math. This is $1.2 million grant ensures that Early College STEM Academy will have the funds needed to reach our goal of 200 students enrolled by school year 2020-2021, and complements the funds MMSD and Madison have already dedicated for this program. The board would like to thank Ascendium for their support in advancing the board's goals around increasing opportunities for our youth. Next, we have a resolution regarding F-35 jet planes at Turex Field, and I will go ahead and hand that over to Chris Carusi and Savion Castro for, thank you for leading this, doing your research and engaging our community in this topic. Appreciate your leadership and guidance.
Thanks, Gloria. I want to just take a second to thank the whole board for taking time to read drafts and provide input, and I feel like this is a really important thing for us to be saying. I also want to point out that this is a different kind of resolution than the board usually puts forth. Most of our resolutions are usually in recognition of a student or a group of students or student rights. This one is actually taking a policy position. In the future, I would request that we clarify when we vote on this type of a resolution where we're taking a policy position versus when we just read a resolution in recognition of something. So that's just something I want to put out there as clarifying how we work as a group down the road. Thank you.
All right, so whereas the U.S. Air National Guard has selected the 115th Fighter Wing, also known as Truax Field in Madison, as a preferred site for its F-35A operational bed down. Whereas in August 2019, the Air National Guard released the draft environmental impact statement for the F-35A operational bed down. Whereas at this time, the Madison Metropolitan School District is reasonably relying on the accuracy of the draft EIS, whereas 3 MMSD elementary schools, Hawthorne, Lakeview, and Sandburg, are situated immediately outside the 65 decibel noise contour shown in the draft EIS, whereas in 2018-2019, 73% of students attending these schools were students of color, 42% were English language learners, and 72% were considered low income. And whereas the draft EIS states that increased noise levels resulting from the proposed action may interrupt speech and hinder the ability of students to learn, and contrary to the district's commitment to Black excellence and racial equity, constitute an adverse impact on children, including low-income and minority children.
And whereas the draft EIS omits Hawthorne and Sandburg Elementary Schools from its analysis and therefore underestimates the adverse impact of the proposed action on children. And whereas because the affected schools lie just outside the 65 decibel noise contour, Madison property taxpayers may bear the cost of soundproofing these schools as a result of the proposed action. And whereas the draft EIS states that 1,318 households lie within the 65 decibel contour considered potentially incompatible with residential use. And whereas many of the households in the area considered potentially incompatible with residential use are MMSD families, and whereas potential displacements of households and reduction of property values may decrease MMSD enrollment and the property tax base that funds our public schools, and whereas the draft EIS acknowledges the proposed action will have a disproportionate impact on people of color, and a City of Madison analysis further acknowledges that there are concentrations of poverty and people of color just outside the 65 decibel contour. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the MMSD Board of Education concludes that the issues identified in the draft EIS will negatively impact learning in our schools, reduce the property tax base, decrease school enrollment in the affected area, and disproportionately affect children and families of color and people with low incomes. And be it finally resolved that the MMSD Board of Education requests that the Air National Guard reconsider Truax Field as a preferred location for the F-35A operational bed down, unless the draft EIS is found to significantly misrepresent negative impacts on learning, children, and the community.
Thank you. Nikki, go ahead.
Excellent resolution. Is there a way we can move it into the action item so that we could vote on it, or is that not permissible?
Go ahead, Matt.
I wanted to know if we could move it into the other work group so that way we can actually vote on it currently.
Other work groups on a different time, or do you mean other,
Like-
other business?
Other business is what I
Okay.
meant to say. I just
Okay, certainly.
blanked on the word. If we could move it to other business so that way, but hear it now so that way it could be. It wouldn't invalidate our notice because it was within 2 hours of the meeting. Therefore, it falls under the emergency statute.
The board would have to, I believe, vote to
Oh.
move it to another part of the agenda, and so that would require a motion to move it to other business. As of right now, it's a resolution that doesn't require a vote, but if moved to the other business, it could be voted upon.
Permission, you're on.
Go ahead, Nikki.
I'd like to make the motion that the F-35 resolution be moved to other business so that a vote can be taken on such an important topic. I feel the board should have a vote out there expressing our beliefs on such an important topic.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
In discussion?
I want to comment. There are currently a lot of children, a lot of our students that are being impacted by environmental injustice in our community. I'm in opposition of a vote because I want us to be unified on this. We decided to move in the resolution together. We crafted this resolution as a collaborative. I don't necessarily feel strong about moving into a vote, and actually don't feel strong about continuing to have this conversation in the absence of a lot of other conversations about how we're going to move to support the children that are currently being impacted by other environmental injustice in our community.
Thank you, Ananda. Do you have anything? Okay, let's move for, go ahead,
For a
Matt,
vote.
did you have something?
I'm just going to move
Yeah.
forward with the vote, yeah.
Okay, all those, Ali?
So I do think it's important. I do think it's important to say the resolution was crafted in solidarity and has the full support of the board. That's my understanding. I think whether or not we want to vote on it later in the meeting is about whether or not we want to allocate greater time. And so I think voting to vote on it is not a matter of supporting it. The resolution has my full support. Having it kind of spill over or carry on throughout the meeting doesn't feel like a necessity of the board making that statement or supporting that statement. So Chris and Sabian, I deeply appreciate your work.
I also deeply appreciate it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think we are in solidarity on this. Thank you both for the work behind this. Let's go ahead and make a vote, do a vote on the motion. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Aye.
Nay.
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 Nay, sorry. Oh, in favor. All those opposed, nay? Okay. All those, you, nay? Okay.
She abstained.
Abstaining, okay. Chris Crucy abstained. All right. All right, moving on to the next. We have just an update on our superintendent search. The board has been working long hours, extra days in working just in identifying who the search firm will be to conduct the superintendent search. All these meetings have been open to the public. They are recorded, so you have access to all of our discussions in regards to the decision in the consultant that we hired. We hired a BWP and Associates who will be conducting our superintendent search. We had our first meeting with BWP on, when did we have it? Last week? Wednesday. Yeah. And last week, Wednesday. And so we are really excited to move into the next phase of this search. This is the time where we need community input. So we ask that you engage yourselves, find out where our consultants will be around the district to get input. There will be an opportunity to conduct a survey, to participate in a survey. We do have a website up, and that is mmsd.org/superintendent search. That we'll keep updating that website, adding new information. Right now, it has our timeline, our search timeline, and it also has a way in which you can sign up to get input, to give input, and also get updates on the superintendent search. We are anticipating that we want to make a selection sometime in February of next year. So we will keep updating you all during our board meetings to give you an update of where we're at. All right? Okay. Next item is the superintendent announcement. Nothing? Okay. Report on items that proceeded through the instruction work group. Yep, that's you.
At the last work group, we spoke extensively around the monitoring and in ways in which we're going to implement our programs, and looking forward to continue to work with Lisa and our board in order to continue to work and find resolutions for both of those processes.
Great. And then we have some proposed agenda items in October. Advanced learning and
we will be reviewing the advanced learning and honors advanced placement.
Great. Thank you. A report on items that proceeded through the operations work group held on September 16th.
Yep, so on September 16th, we got our first view into our forward-looking budget, both into next year as well as a bit of a multi-year revenue outlook. and we had a good discussion on the potential of an operating to exceed referendum. This year we are coming off of a 4-year operating to exceed referendum, which was approved by voters 4 years ago, and we gave the guidance to begin to explore what that might look like for the district over the next 4 years. We also discussed, which will be an action item later tonight, the short-term borrowing, the TRAN, which will be an action item later. Our next meeting is October 21st, and we will have our final view into this year's budget, the 19-20 budget, during that discussion.
Great, thank you, Kate. There's no action items for the instruction work group, and move on to the action items that proceeded through the operations work group held on September 16th, and that was the tax revenue anticipation note. It is recommended that the Board of Education award the low bidder for the tax revenue anticipation note to J.P. Morgan Securities for a total of $68 million at a net interest cost of $841,330, net interest rate of 1.337568%.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Consent agenda. It is recommended that the Board of Education adopt and approve all the motions set forth in Section 10 of the electronic agenda prepared for the September 23rd, 2019 regular school board meeting, exactly as said motions are written. By voting affirmatively on this motion, a board member expresses his or her affirmative vote on each of the motions consolidated hereby, subject to any express separations that have been made by any member of the school board.
Second.
I'd like a separation, please.
Okay?
9.13, I'd like to be excused.
Okay. Okay.
9.8.
All right. We will go ahead and vote on the all the consent agendas except 9.13 and 9.18. All those in, I'm sorry?
No, 9.8.
9.13 and 9.8. All those in favor? Anika, your advisory vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Aye.
Great. Motion passes. All right, let's, 9.13 is another you're excusing your,
Conflict, as I said, in a Madison College board.
okay. I move to approve 9.13. Anika, your advisory vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, motion passes. The next item is 9.8. Chris?
I just had a clarification or two on this one. First, I had asked about who would be taking the test, and the response I got was that anybody in level 3 language or above would be taking the test, but the memo makes it sound more like it's just an opportunity, so I wanted to clarify if this is required of all kids in level 3 language and above, or just an option for those kids. And secondly, I'd like more clarification just on how the results of this test will be used and reported to the board.
Is this a Lisa question?
Who can answer that question? Jane?
Lisa, can you answer that? Or Tim Peterson?
Hi, thanks for asking the question. Is this on? Okay. So students in level 3 or above will be taking it, and it will be used to actually determine if they are appropriately designated for the seal of biliteracy moving forward. And the assessment is also used to adjust and enhance instruction for students in world language classes and in dual language immersion content courses.
And with all our assessments, it is an option to opt out of the assessment. So if the student does not want to take the assessment, that is certainly a viable choice.
And just my other question was, how will the data be reported to the board? Will we actually get a report on this, or will it just be in data dashboard?
Each of the staff members will have a login to the site, so they'll be able to see their own students' results. Plus, one of the results that they get is actually they can listen to the students' speaking response to the question.
Will the board get a report at all?
Sorry?
Will the board get a report on the results of this?
If you would like a report, an overall report, then yes, we can do that.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you. I move to approve 9.18. Anika, your advisory vote? 9.8. 9.8, what did I say?
Yes.
9.8, sorry. Anika, your advisory vote? Aye. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Now we are down to other reports to the board. So we'll start with the City of Madison Education Committee. Ananda? Right? Did I miss one?
The other items, item 10, I'm also lost on that. Item 10, other items of business proposed to consider.
Oh, gotcha.
CBA.
Sorry about that. Okay. Other items of business proposed to consider. I was ready to leave, right? All right, so other items of business proposed to be considered under Section 10, consent agenda. Collective bargaining agreement on base wage, a big one, Madison Teachers, Inc., Educational Support Employees Association. It is recommended that the Board of Education ratify the Madison Teachers, Inc., Educational Support Employees Association collective bargaining agreement for base wage increase for the period of July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020.
Second.
Anika, your advisory vote? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Next item, it is recommended that the Board of Education ratify the Madison Teachers, Inc. Did I just read that?
It's another one.
It's another one. Okay.
Another unit.
It is recommended that the Board of Education ratify the Madison Teachers, Inc. Teacher Unit Collective Bargaining Agreement for base wage increase for the period of July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020.
Second.
All those in,
I'm going to recuse myself for the next ones.
okay.
Thank you.
Recusal for Ali, okay. Anika, your advisory vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. 10.3, it is recommended that the Board of Education ratify the Madison Teachers, Inc. Substitute Teachers Unit Collective Bargaining Agreement for base wage increase for the period of July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020.
Second.
Discussion? Good?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm still recused.
All right. Anika, your advisory vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. 10.4, it is recommended that the Board of Education ratify the Building and Construction Trades Council of South Central Wisconsin collective bargaining agreement for base wage increase for the period of July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020.
Second.
Discussion? All right. Anika, your advisory vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Are you still recused?
I am. I think she.
Yep.
I'm like, I nodded.
Oh, I didn't know. I'm sorry. I didn't see that.
All right, so now we are on to other reports to the board. Ananda, you want to get us started with Education Committee?
So the Education Committee met on September 12th. Quorum was met. Appointments were made for chair and vice chair. Yours truly was voted for chair, and County Supervisor Carousel Baird was voted for vice chair. Upon reviewing the committee's survey results, it was decided to hold regular monthly meetings. It was also decided that the October meeting to be rescheduled due to observance of Yom Kippur. A doodle poll was sent to members. It was decided that each elected official will seek input on top issues to bring to the committee. So I sent all of y'all an email asking for inputs to bring to the committee. There was also a discussion around renaming the committee and reviewing the mission and goals, as well as membership.
Great. Thank you, Ananda. Student Senate, Anika, do you have? It's right there. Yeah.
Cool. So we had our first meeting 2 weeks ago. We talked about recruitment and then just what we want to do going forward. Our next meeting is this Wednesday.
Great, thank you. Superintendent search on their radar? It's still on.
Oh.
Is it?
Yeah, we'll look into that, I guess, as the board gets more decisive about it.
Great, thank you. All right, Madison School and Community Recreation MSCR Advisory Committee?
Yes, we did not meet due to conflict with members and organizing the meeting. Our next meeting is October 23rd at 6 to 8 p.m. at the Hoyt Building.
Okay. Thank you. Now on to other business. We have legal services operating budget for 2019-2020. Recommended action, whereas Madison School Board Policy 4045 and Wisconsin State Section 120.13, Parents 1, Parents E, provide that Madison School Board hereinafter the board may adopt a resolution in which the board may authorize the use of an independent hearing officer appointed by the board to determine pupil expulsion from school, and whereas the such resolution is only effective during the school year it is adopted, and whereas the board desires to adopt such resolution and use independent hearing officers to determine pupil expulsion from school for 2019-2020 school year. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby authorizes the use of an independent hearing officer for the 2019-2020 school year to determine a pupil's expulsion from school, and be it further resolved that the following independent hearing examiners shall be appointed to the pool of examiners. Niels Wilsnick. Okay. Can I get a second? Second? All right. Anika, your advisory vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Rescinding action related to naming proposal. It is recommended that the Board of Education rescind its prior motion approving naming the La Follette High School Communities Specter Gym.
I move.
Spectator Gym.
Oh, yeah, Spectator Gym. Yeah. Can I get a second?
So moved.
Okay. Discussion on this? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. And can I get a motion to adjourn? That was our last agenda item.
Second.
Anika, your advisory vote? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.